Hello, 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 everyone. This is Coach Powell, and welcome to Coffee Tea You and Me with Coach Powell. I love spending this time with each and every one of you on these Friday afternoons. I've done, I can't even tell you how many of these sessions now, but I will tell you since the start of COVID, we've been doing these online group coaching training programs to really help entrepreneurs and business leaders of all types really to begin to think through the things that they wouldn't normally think about. And the current series that we're in is literally over is a planning opportunity. It's a planning, it's a strategic opportunity. It's an opportunity for you entrepreneurs and business leaders to begin to think through not just what you do, but how you do it, why you do it, where you hope to go with your plans and with your organizational processes and how you're going to get there, the habits that you're going to have to adopt, and the ones you're going to have to abandon. Literally, the VisionQuest planning process is a process that includes all that. And not only that, the kind of resources in terms of the people and the relationships that you're going to have to build to get the right kinds of mentors, the right kinds of support that you're going to need to overcome the obstacles that you are no doubt going to face. And so the Vision Quest planning process is really all about that. And we started last week giving you a brief overview of the planning process, right? We talked about what it means to have an alignment between your vision, your goals, your sense of mission, which is your sense of purpose, right? And the habits that you need to develop, as well as the contacts and community that you have to build. And we talked about the reason why you want to do these things, because you want to have an alignment between all these things. Now, your bank is not going to ask you to do this. Your investors are not going to ask you to do this. This is what you need to do for you and for your team and for literally anybody who you wish to influence and create a stronger relationship with. You have to have a well-written, brilliantly organized plan of execution that you can put forward to other people quickly, easy, and simply. You have to be able to articulate it literally from your head, from the dome, right? You have to be able to speak it and you have to be able to show it. And it has to be so well ingrained into your character and your personality and how you exude the business responsibilities, that you can answer questions and you can say yes or no to opportunities as they come up quickly, so that you don't lose opportunities because you weren't ready. And if I had to think about it, that's what the Vision Quest planning process is really all about, is helping you to make sure that no matter what happens or no matter what's going on, you are ready. You are ready with a response. And I guess I get that from my military background, right? So it's almost about ready. It's always about readiness and preparedness, right? Making sure that you've got the response to whatever situation that could come up. Now, what's different about the Vision Quest planning process is we help people to think through the PESTLE process. And for those of you who are not familiar with PESTLE, PESTLE is an acronym and it stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecosystem or um, environmental issues that you may have to face. Now, understand all these are macro level processes and macro level understandings and thoughts that most of us in small business don't really think through well enough. A political upheaval of some type. What is that going to mean to your business? An economic um, disaster of some type. What is that going to mean to your business when people are not looking for jobs or aren't prepared to work, and you need to hire up people and you don't have enough quality people to pull from, and you don't have the right kind of staffing firm in place to help you get the people that you need to have, or whatever the reasons are. They're on the macro level of economic jobs, or there might not even be opportunities to do what you do regularly, and you may have to figure out ways to make a pivot, but you have to understand that the higher level economics to see where on the supply chain you fit, and how do you make sure that you are at the highest level of opportunity on the supply chain, and you're applying your innovation and your strategy to make sure that you're there, so that no matter what happens, you still get to win, right? You got to understand that. You got to look at the social dynamics, right? What's going on around you? What's going on in your community? What's going on in your business opportunities that allow you to thrive? And you have to have a good understanding of what it means to thrive in the situations that you're in, and how do you make sure that you're moving in that direction and helping your team get in that direction. You got to understand the technology that's around you. You can't put your head in the sand and not know the technology that is available to you, that's effective for you, that's innovative for you, so that you can stay upfront of the goings and comings in the marketplace. And you have to be thinking through the future of that technology, right? If you don't understand how the technology is in developing and how it's growing, then you're probably going to be missing an opportunity to grow your business. So you have to stay on top of that. The legal situations, the changes in the law that affect you locally, that affect you nationally, that affect you within the state that you live in. You need to understand the rules, the laws, and the things that you're playing with, that applies to the overall industry that you're in, and the overall business that you're trying to adopt and grow, right? So if you don't understand the legal aspects of it, then you have a good reason to be afraid. You have a good reason to be worried. And it's not about hiring the right attorney. It's about knowing for yourself what your rights and roles and responsibilities are, right? Legally. And then there is the environmental or ecosystem that all comes together, and every business exists within an environment. We exist within an ecosystem, and we understand, you know, what supplies what, who competes for the same supply, and how do you make sure that you get what you need to move the needle forward. And I give you a classic example. You know, no one predicted the semiconductor crisis that we were going to have as a result of the pandemic. And as a result of the pandemic, people wanted to buy more computers than they ever bought ever before in the history of computer. Home computers and systems and data systems and all that kind of stuff grew grew tremendously through the pandemic, right? But because of that, and there became a backup in the supply chain of chips, semiconductors. Then people couldn't get all the tools and things they needed to stand up their businesses, to go virtual, to go home. And a lot of people couldn't get that stuff, and that the prices became astronomical. And then already they're having problems. And so you understand this is something that people, if they understood where the world of work was going to go, because you couldn't predict the pandemic, right? But if you understood where the world of work was going to go hybrid, right? We could have gotten in front of that and built those systems so that we could pivot whenever we needed to. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how the VisionQuest process has helped people to overcome and learn from some of the major issues that have happened to us. So you understand, and we talked about this last week, the total system is dependent on a couple of key ideas. And those key ideas revolve around planning, creating alignment or balance, and then finally finding the community that you need to find to support and help you grow. And we talked about all that last week. So if we're going to get into details in each of those categories in next week, but I'm just kind of conducting a brief overview, and let me explain to you how the process kind of works, and it works in a real-time scenario, right? So here's what we learned. Businesses learn this overall from dealing with the pandemic, right? There's 7 lessons that entrepreneurs, small businesses need to learn from, all right, and be ready for, because something like this could happen again. And I promise you, these 7 lessons that we learned from the pandemic, and I will tell you that anybody who's going through the Vision Quest 90 process with me, we're going to consider all these things, because it's no longer, these small business rules of thumb that we used to use to make sure that businesses were taken care of. They don't make any sense when you have a macro level event, and you have to be prepared differently. And there's always a macro level event that is right around the corner. A bubble is going to burst that's going to cause a financial upheaval, which is going to make access to capital different. Something political is going to happen where, business that you used to do it in ways you used to do it is going to be different because, there's a new president, there's a new whatever. But business is business, and you have to focus on making sure your business has what it needs to not just survive, but thrive no matter what happens. So let's talk about it. Here are the 7 lessons we learned from the pandemic. 1, you always have to be ready to be adaptable. You have to be flexible, and that's just that. Number 2, you got to be prepared for whatever digital transformation that you need to make happen way ahead of any event, any type of situation. You have to be involved with constant digital transformation, learning how to use the digital tools and to use the assets and creating those assets that work best for your business, right? Employee well-being. You need to focus on that, because, and by the way, it's very hard to do any of these things that we're going to talk about today if you're operating on razor thin margins. You have to improve your pricing, and you have to improve the quality of service that you're offering and the quality of market that you're offering if you're going to be ready to overcome whatever obstacles are coming your way. So you got to think about, you know, uh, small profit margins are not where you need to be. And if you find yourself in a situation where you have small profit margins, you need to figure out quickly how can you move up the chain so that you can develop higher level profit margins. We can talk about that kind of stuff, but think about it. Community engagement, number 4. This is critically important. Financial preparedness. You got to have. I'm not talking about just having 6 or years worth of your burn rate, or your what you'd have to pay all of your employees, including yourself, set aside somewhere you can easily get to it, or have an asset that can be easily liquidated in order to make sure you have what you need to make sure you make payroll, so that you can retool your people and get them going in a different direction. But if you don't have them, then you don't have resources. So that you got to be prepared financially to deal with that, right? Innovation and creativity. You always have to be producing new, better, more creative ways to do the thing that you're doing. You need to be not just um, keeping up with your industry, you have to be the next highest standard in your industry, whatever that industry is. And the beautiful thing about small businesses, there's nothing stopping you from doing that, nothing stopping you from creating that, nothing stopping you from accessing that ability and moving forward. The last thing we're going to talk about today is making sure that you have a customer centric approach, because there's nothing that you can do to overcome a macro level event like the pandemic if you don't have a very, very good handle on who is your customer. Why do they want you? Why do they need you? What do you offer that's going to be revolutionary? You can't be offering just the same old. You have to be offering a better and differentiated advantage than anybody else in your industry in the chosen marketplace that you're going to be in. I don't care what it is that you're offering, but you have to be the best of the best. When you're talking about doing it at a small business level, and if you're not sure about that, you might want to get your training up, you might want to get your coaching up, you might want to do what you need to do to develop the skills and the talent that you have to develop in order to know that you're the best. Because if you know you're the best, again, and you can communicate that effectively, it makes a big difference in terms of how you're going to get the support that you're going to need to overcome whatever obstacles that you have to overcome. So let's get into number one, adaptability. What are we talking about? Well, the pandemic taught us that when you're able to adapt to changing circumstances quickly, you're able to overcome those circumstances faster and better than other people who were kind of caught behind the eight ball. And so you need to be a little bit of a soothsayer, or should I say, in your business, you have to really be thinking forward. What could possibly happen in those key areas that I mentioned earlier: politically, economically, social, technological, legal, and environmental? You have to think about those things. And you have to have some plans, some detailed written um, understanding of how you're going to respond just in case. You have to have that what if plan. You have to have the redundant plans. You have to have the ability to make sure that whatever you're doing, you can sustain and even grow your business. People saying right now, like, oh my God, the president is changing so many things and it's coming so fast and so hard and so heavy at everybody. And yes, that's true. But there are those who are going to see this as a woe is me opportunity. But there's those entrepreneurs who are going to go, wait a minute. If I'm doing a vital job, think about that. If I'm doing a vital job for the federal government and for some reason I get cut and help, so I might even want to volunteer to be out, right? But for some reason I get cut, fired, or whatever that is, right? If you're doing something essential, not that's labeled essential, right? Because essential services, we kind of give these labels out. But you think about it, if you're doing something that you know for a fact is essential to your agency's ability to do what it's supposed to do, right? Then you might want to think about turning around and being a specialist for that organization. In fact, teaching others how to do what you maybe used to do, that you now have an expertise that you can now do across other agencies even, and become a contractor. But you have to learn the FAR. You have to learn the federal acquisition rules and requirements. You have to learn what it means to be a contractor. And you got to get past whatever your fear that you have and make sure you develop the support that you need to have. But guess what happens when you have an expertise of any type? Support easily follows your expertise if you can demonstrate a need for it. And a bank will easily give you money to do the things that you can prove that you're one of the best at. So if you got a situation where you have some ideas and you have some knowledge, start writing down how you would do things better, how you can make it different, how you can do that kind of stuff, and make sure you have that plan ready to go, just in case you need to. You have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible. You can't just sit down your laurels and go and wait for the axe to come. Wait for the negative consequence to impact your family or your business. if you haven't already thought about maybe starting a business part-time, a gig on the side, think about doing that. What talent and what gifts have you been given that you can use that you'd love to spend some extra time in? And yeah, make the sacrifice of time and energy in building that because that's going to give you the confidence that you need to secure your future. Digital transformation. This is a big lesson that people learned during the pandemic. If you learn how to embrace the digital tools and the online platforms that you need to embrace, you're going to find that it's much easier for you to pivot when you need to pivot. You don't want to get caught behind the eight ball without the right hardware, software, networks, data storage. These are things you have to be good and golden in. Because again, we don't know when the next big snow day, Armageddon, is going to happen, right? We don't know where it's going to come from. But if you have your right e-commerce capabilities, if you've really had to figure out how to take most of your stuff online, um, you're going to be great. You're going to be golden. I have a friend who was important in developing the infrastructure that needed to happen in order for a local restaurant who's got several different opportunities to take all their business online and be able to do drive-by pickup, all those things, and never have to come into the store. And they were successful and thriving even throughout the pandemic because they got involved with the digital stuff quickly. They didn't wait. They already had it ready. As a matter of fact, it was just about turning the key and pulling the switch. Right. So it's very, very important that you are digitally ready and you've done what you need to do to make sure that if any time there's a big change that has to happen in your business, you're ready to do it. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, what if the internet doesn't work and it's so bad that the internet doesn't work? That could happen, right? Um, but what if it does and you're still not ready? Right? It's super, super important that you stay ready on and this again, the VisionQuest 90 process is all about making sure that you have plans and you have redundancies and you're prepared to deal with whatever comes your way. Another thing we learned from the pandemic, employee well-being, we have to think differently about employee well-being, including ourselves. As an entrepreneur, business leader, you can't afford to look out for your people, but not look out for yourself, right? It's critical that we stay in front of um, stress and mental health issues, right? It's a real thing. We are asking ourselves and our employees to do more than they have ever done in the past in human history. We're asking for more productivity. We're asking for more efficiency. We're asking for more effectiveness. And it's going to take a lot of retooling to make sure that people can learn to be all those things that we need them to be, but also have work-life balance and also take care of themselves and eat well and drink the right kinds of water and making sure they're getting the kinds of rest, the kind of rest that's renewal, the kind of rest that's is responsible, right? So you want them to be able to maintain these things. So maybe you're talking about flexible working arrangements, and maybe you're talking about getting rid of, the fatty snacks that are served in the break room or in the machines. Maybe you're talking about making sure that there's flex time, part time, compressed work weeks, working from home. All these things are things that can be done easily with some thought and some preparation to make sure that you can weather the storm and your people will see you as a real leader. Now, what do I mean by that? Stephen Covey taught me this a long time ago, and I never forgot it. He said in the training environment that we were in at one point in time in my former career, he told a group of us that you lead people, but you manage systems. And a lot of people who are in business today forgot that they're still responsible to lead people. I don't care if your title is a supervisor, your title is a manager, your title is, whatever your title is or your role is. in reality, you're still a leader, and people are looking at you to be the example. People are looking at you to show them the way. People are looking at you to guide and direct, right? You can't do that if you're falling apart physically, mentally, emotionally. You can't do that if you're not setting the example of keeping it moving, working out, making sure that you are doing the things that strengthen you as a person so you can offer the best to the environment that you're in, to the workplace and the team. You got to do that. And if you're not about that, I promise you, the next big, economic crisis or social crisis or whatever happens is going to leave you coming up a little short, and you don't want to come up short. Another thing we learned about in the pandemic is importance of community engagement, right? When you have strong community ties and good, solid local support networks, I mean, everybody needs to know some great attorneys and some great accountants and some great marketing professionals and some great IT professionals and some great, you know, um, people who can help supervise and manage and even volunteer sometimes to come on board. But you can't do that if you don't get out in the community that you're working in. And there's several communities that are important to every small business. One is that your community of investors, people who could support you with some type of investment, right? That that either you could pay them back or offer them something amazing for that particular investment, a special opportunity, or maybe a promotional thing, or whatever you're trying to do, even equity, right? There are things that you can do to offer something of value for the value of investing in you. And you have to be good at understanding what that could be and offer those things to your investor community. There's also your referral source community. These are people who believe in you, they support you, they understand what you're doing and where you're going. They're plugged in themselves to your mission and the vision that you have for your business and where you hope to go with it. And they want to help you get there. They want to refer people to you, right? You have to have these ties and these networks already built. And you can't treat your investor network the same way you treat your referral network because they want different things. They're looking for different benefits. You have to be very good at communicating the benefit. And then your customer network. These are customers who they're going to share their hard-earned dollars with you, right? And yes, you're going to give them something of value in return, but you have to treat them in a way that they're going to love coming back and sharing more of their hard-earned dollars or resources of any type with you. It's very important that you foster these relationships with your local communities, with the local leaders in your community. They need to know who you are and what you do. They need to be comfortable with you. So you have to have relationships with them because you never know how a community leader might turn into a source of support in helping you maybe find investors or supporters or stakeholders that might benefit you and your organization, right? Super, super important. You cannot miss this step. I can't tell you how important this is. If you miss this step, if you don't hold local events where people can come by, see what you do, ribbon cuttings, things like that, that the chamber might offer you, collaboration with other business opportunities, people who are in local business themselves, they may offer something that you need, and you may offer something they need. You may be able to share resources and partner to collaborate in a meaningful way. You can support local causes. If you see charities in your organization or in your world that might benefit from you sharing your services and so on and so forth with them and using you as a fundraising opportunity, great opportunity to really support local charitable causes and get next to some people who could help you, who could benefit you, who could write letters of recommendations for you and become a part of your referral platform. You can use even simple social media stuff like LinkedIn, Engage, Instagram. You could start doing that kind of stuff. You can offer volunteer opportunities. I said that earlier. You can personalize your customer experience so well that no one else can do it, right? No one else can offer the product and service that you offer the way you offer them, but you have to capture what that differential advantage is and make sure that people are experiencing the benefit of that differential advantage. Right? Provide educational content, create a welcoming space where people can come in and maybe do things, free Wi-Fi. These are all things that you can do to celebrate the local culture and the people that are around you. But the key to it all is listen, see what's going on, what people are involved in. I remember years ago when I ran a community foundation in my neighborhood, I realized that there was no gathering space for this community I lived in. We're a county run property, right? Area. So there's no city and there's no town council. There's no place for the community to gather, or no reason really for the community to gather um, outside of organic reasons that we might create, right? So there wasn't a whole bunch of open mic nights or local musicians. There wasn't even um, a local um, community service group like like Toastmasters or the Rotary Club or the Lions Club, or and traditionally in towns, these organizations do a lot to support whatever needs the town might have. So you need to have these kinds of organizations. So I started putting those in place. We built a Rotary Club right here in Centerville, Virginia, that was unheard of. I mean, it was 90% women in the Rotary Club. And Rotary Club, if anybody knows, is pretty much a good old boys network. But we built a nice, diverse Rotary Club that had a ton of women in it. And we allowed them opportunities to lead and do community development work and work within the community to make the community better. And I gotta say, the community is a much better place because of them. That's the point. You got to get involved in the community. And I made a name for myself in the community by making sure that the community had what it needed to move forward and to be community, have the Girl Scout meetings and have the Boy Scout clubs and have all the different, church groups, bringing together the different neighborhoods and areas, and talking about what we have in common, obstacles that we face in common and how we can deal with it. Those are things that it's important for leaders to do. So if you're leading your business, you're already leading. You might as well step into leadership. And it's not about politics, it's about leadership. Politics is not the only way we lead. I think a lot of people get mixed up in believing that, we don't have any power because we're not elected. That's not true. That is not true. That's not an American value. Well, it might be now, but it's not a value that this country's founded on. We're free. We're free to engage. We're free to do something. If we're not engaging, but it's impossible for us to get anything done. That's the whole story of this. Number 5, financial preparedness. Again, super important. You need to understand all the financial levers that you could pull to develop the kind of financial wherewithal that you need to have within your business. You need to understand crowdfunding and be prepared to run a crowdfunding campaign. Like right now, you need to understand peer-to-peer lending. You need to understand how grants work, how community development financial institutions work, microloans, how they work. What is an angel investor? What's a venture capital? What are they looking for? And how can you get yourself involved in those? What is a business incubator or accelerator program? What does that look like? How would it feel like in your situation? What's revenue-based financing, invoice financing, equipment financing? These are all things that are critically important for you to get your mind around. Now, in my training that I'm kind of briefing overview right now with you guys, I got detailed explanations of how that kind of stuff works. And I suggest you read it when it's all finished. It's not going to be finished to the end of this series, but you hang in there with me, you'll get that free document. So continue to play. The number 6 is innovation and creativity. I can't say enough about this. Small business is the key to innovation and creativity all the time, everywhere, full stop, right? It is the small business innovators who are able to see a problem, recognize a solution, create a way to then present that problem and that solution in a way that can win opportunity and business for your organization. That is something that small businesses can do bigger and better than anybody. I'm going on record as saying it, right? You're already forward thinking. You're already creative. You already have the ingenuity to even start your business, right? And you're figuring out how to make the business work. A part of this is making sure that you're staying on top. You are creating some type of IP, some type of intellectual property that you are a specialist in. You know better than anybody else what this might be. And in order to do that, that's how you can, again, further differentiate yourself being other things about other people who think they're doing what you do. Now, that's the last thing I'm going to offer when it comes to the 7 key lessons that we learned from the pandemic. And these are things that, we kind of cover. We may make sure that we cover these and so much more in the VisionQuest 90 process. But I have to tell you, there are plenty practical examples of how you create a creative culture in your organization, how you develop a customer centric approach in your organization, how you just move through and do different things. And I have a lot of exercises here in this planning document. Right. And next week we're going to get into planning, literally why planning matters. You don't develop a plan because somebody told you to develop a plan. You develop a plan because you understand that without a plan, you're going to make so many more mistakes that you're going to make with the plan. You're going to make mistakes. No plan is actually bulletproof. But I will tell you what is guaranteed to fail is no plan. And so we're going to get into the magic of planning next week, and that might take carries for a couple of weeks. And then we're going to talk about really what it takes to build community. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks, for a few weeks. And then we're going to finally end this all off with creating balance, creating alignment of all these various ideas so that you can function and streamline and function. In the military, we call it, low drag. What we used to say? High speed, low drag, right? So you're gonna be cooking with gas. You're gonna be, screaming down the runway. That's what's gonna happen if you get this right. If you take the time to get the things right that we're gonna be talking about. And I hope you enjoyed this talk. I know I did. I'm gonna head off. I got a little function I gotta go to, later on this evening. But I really hope that you got something out of our little talk today, that you could use. I'm gonna post some information in the chat. I hope you enjoy it. Um, ah, Caroline Dennis, I see you out there learning to pivot and shift. You are right. It is so important, that you learn to do that, and you learn to do that exceptionally well. Um, you know, pivot is is what it's really all about. And you've got to kind of be in it long enough to be able to see all the traps, right, and all the things that are going on, because some things are going to catch you off guard, right? There's no way to there's no you can't prepare for every blow that's going to come in your way, right? But you got to be good at ducking. Right? Because you don't know if it's going to be a left or if it's going to be a right. But every blow you got to duck. You got to be duck, and you got to protect, and then you got to come out swinging, right? So I love that analogy for pivoting, right? Because you're not going to be able to see everything happen. Sometimes you're going to get hit, right? But you got to recover quickly, and you got always got to get back to, okay, how do I retreat a little bit, take a look at the landscape, and then come back at it. Retreat, take a look at the landscape, and come back at it. That is the great analogy, that boxing analogy that I just shared with you. That I think is going to help answer the question. I hope that does an adequate job. But you always, you know, what do you do to pivot? You have to see the obstacle in front of you. First of all, get a good look. make a quick analysis of it, and then ask yourself, okay, what can I do to either overcome this obstacle, get around this obstacle, go under the obstacle, get over the obstacle, or just marginalize the obstacle so that the hit ain't so bad, right? These are things that you have to be thinking through because that's going to give you the tools you need to actually make the pivot. If you're so involved in shock and awe that you can't get your arms around the thing, and that you can't figure out where you need to do, take another step back. You know, but and come back as far as you need to come back so that you can see the whole thing. But you have to see the whole thing. You have to see the politics. You have to see the economics. You have to see the social aspects of it. You have to see the technological aspects of it, the legal aspects of it, and finally the whole entire environment. Or you're going to get lost, and you're not going to know how to navigate your way through, around, over, under, or whatever that is. So I hope that was a good answer for you. But I always use the pestle method. You know, um, when I'm going to analyze a situation, I'm going to look at it in its totality. I'm not going to look at it just in my little narrow lane, because then I'm going to allow myself to be open. I got flanks are open, right? I don't want that. I want to close that down. I don't want anything coming at me, and I don't have a response ready. That's what the VisionQuest 90 process is all about, and you're going to find out a lot more about that over the next couple of weeks. So I hope you hang in there with me. Hope you come back. Hope you engage, and I love hearing your questions and your thoughts and your comments. I really appreciate you. And Caroline, she has an MBA and a CFEI. That's one of those, um, what do they call those? One of those certifications I don't know anything about. Is that a certified executive? I don't know what that is. So, Carolyn, if you want to write in the chat what that certification means, that probably would be helpful for others to even know more about you and what you bring to the table. And hopefully, you might even get something going. So, put that information in the chat, Caroline. Hope to see you. I see you on LinkedIn today. I really appreciate you. God bless you guys. Have a great day. It's Coach Powell signing out. I'm going to go have some fun with my fraternity brothers. Talk to y'all soon.